I've been playing a lot of multiplayer Minecraft lately. Everything on the server is pretty straightforward, but because I am new, I have to check the online guides quite a lot. After constantly having to go to the server's website, I found myself thinking about how I could make my life easier navigating the site. So I thought it would be a cool idea to take this website and make my own version of it, and then put it on YouTube. In today's video, we will take a real website for a Minecraft server and come up with a new design. We will then take that design and code it in the upcoming videos. The site we will be working on is Datblock.com. Let's begin by checking it out on Google. It seems that the site has three most popular pages, which are the homepage, the store, and the help portal. We'll be focusing mainly on the homepage, as the other two are basically websites on their own. Datblock's homepage is pretty simple, but it does its job. The point of the page is to get the new players onto the server. The site does that by having a short description of the server, a slider with some cool builds, and a call to action to play now, which opens a pop-up with instructions. It also has a Discord and YouTube buttons for existing players to socialize. But what about existing players that want to purchase some gold or need help claiming the territory? Those are left for Google to direct them to the right place, which thankfully isn't too hard. As you can see, there is a room for improvement. So, what we want is something that will direct the player to the server, like it does now, direct them to the other resources of the server, and perhaps feature some more information about it. If we are to redesign the site, we should include the following sections: header/intro section, basically an improved version of what they have now, features section, talking about some unique benefits of the server, a section featuring their 8 game modes, basically explaining those, and finally, a resources section with their store, the help portal, Discord, and maybe the voting link. With this in mind, let's begin the design phase. Alright, the first thing we want to do is figure out what we're going to be making, what approach we'll do, and what kind of website this is going to be. So right now I have this empty frame in Figma, which is 1920 by 1080, because I believe that this is our target audience. It's going to be people on desktop computers. And so, yeah, we're going to start with that. And the first thing we'll do is just take this and put it into Figma, or at least the basic variation of this. So let's start with that. Alright, so as you can see, this is not exactly the same thing as what we have on the website, but we're not planning on sticking with this design anyways, so I'm not wasting too much time on this. This was just more for me to visualize this in Figma and then start manipulating elements on the spot. The next thing we want to do is decide what kind of layout this is going to be. So I'm thinking we'll have a sticky scrolling, so basically as you scroll, the whole section disappears and then the other one appears without you controlling the in-between. And then I want this text to be bigger and then on this side aligned to the left. The next thing we need to decide is the width of this container. So every site has a container. So I know that we won't have that much text on the screen. So it's pretty safe to assume that we can easily make the container wide, not white, and it's gonna work just fine. So I'm thinking our container is gonna be 1600 pixels. I know that I could be using the Figma's layout grid and stuff like that, but for what we're making, it's not really needed. We can just use this little gray square, gray rectangle, and that would be just enough for now. So let's just put these guides right here so we don't forget where it is, and this could be put away for now. Okay, so we know the idea. We want this whole text to be aligned to the left. I want to play with this button. Obviously, this is not really a button yet. There is no text, but we'll get to that in a second. So first of all, let's start moving the title. So I'll put it here. I know that I want it bigger than this, so maybe 100 pixels. I want it aligned to the left, so something like this. Probably bigger than that, so let's do 150. That's a bit too much, but I know that I don't want to keep the .com in this text, in this title, so I will delete that. And actually, if you look at it this way, it's not that big anymore. And I want it to be full caps, so something like this. And maybe to make it stand out a little bit more, I'll keep it black like this. So something like this. Another thing I want to add is, instead of just saying Datblock, I want it to be a welcome message, so welcome to Datblock, like this. And obviously this is a bit too small right now, so we'll play with that in a second. This paragraph text also needs to go to the left. Again, it's too small, so we'll probably have the same size for both of these. So maybe let's create a style right away. So this is gonna be our main, maybe subheading style, something like this. Because I know that the body font would probably be a little bit smaller than this. And then this one, yeah, I'll apply the subheading style, and this is gonna be our main heading. Something like this. Alright. So yeah, so let's play with that size. So I'm thinking 22 is not enough, maybe 25? No, 25, it could work, but I actually want it to be a little bit bigger than this, maybe reach all the way over here. Let's do 30. And actually 30 is enough, yeah. 30 is fine, let's keep it at 30. And align it to the grid, of course. So I want this welcome message to be closer to Datblock because they're kind of grouped together. It's kind of one sentence, and then this one is a paragraph on its own. So for this one, I want to have maybe 20 pixels difference between them. And by the way, what I just did right now is I put it over here. I aligned the text so that the edge of this, like the border of this text, is aligning to the title. And then I pressed Shift and the arrow up, which basically jumps 10 pixels up. So 10, 20, like this. And we'll do something similar to this text, although this time I want it to be bigger than just 20 pixels, so let's do 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50, no, 40, something like this. Also note that I am keeping everything inside of a group called intro text because I'm trying to stay organized, because I know that every slide or every section of the site, we'll have 4 of them by the way, will have its own group, so I'm keeping this one inside of its own group. So actually let's do it this way, so intro. And I think it's time to preview it, so let's hit this present button right here, which will open in another tab of Figma. And let's make sure we set it to be width, scale down to fit width, although I think in this case it doesn't matter. And yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with how, with the size and layout. I think I want to work on this section a little bit more. I want to style the button. I want to make sure that the background right here is not interfering with the way we read this text. But we'll get to that in a second. And I also want to have some sort of social media links at the top. These social media links will stay here all the time. Okay, the next thing we want to do is play with this button, as I said. So I'm thinking to do something similar to Minecraft.net, so kind of something like this, but for the colors that this server has. And yeah, so let's begin with specifying the width and height. So I'm thinking our button will be somewhere around the width of 250 and maybe the height of 70. Yeah, 70 is fine for now. Haven't decided yet, but this doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's a bit far away from the rest of the text, but the actual button, the size, yeah, I would click on that. Alright, so as I said, we want it to look like this. So we want some kind of a highlight here, and then the shadow right here, so at the bottom and to the left. Yeah, so let's do that. So this is going to be our button. Let's start with the highlight. So what we'll do is we'll just take this rectangle, let's just call it base, so we know what that is, or button base. Well, for now we'll just keep it base because we'll group this anyways. And what I'll do is I'll press Ctrl D or Command D on Mac to duplicate this layer. I will change the color just a little bit, like this, and I will put it behind the original base. I will call this highlight. And I will move it not 10 pixels up, but maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, no, actually that's too much. 1, 2, 3. Let's do 3. Yeah, 3 pixels is fine for now. We can adjust later, but I think this is a good size. Maybe it's a bit too small now that I look at it from far away. So yeah, let's try 5 pixels. So right now it's at 3, so 4, 5. So each time I hit the arrow up button, it jumps 1 pixel without pressing shift. Okay, let's preview that. Yeah, this looks a bit better. I'm not sure if this is enough contrast, so maybe I will make this even brighter so it's more visible. Yeah, something like this. And then I will duplicate this layer, and I will do pretty much the same thing at the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But instead of this color, now I want something that starts from this base color, but goes dark. So something like this. Let's see how that looks. Maybe even darker. Let's try making it darker. Yeah, something like that. So let's see how this looks. Yeah, it's pretty similar. We're not trying to do exactly the same thing, although we will have something very similar. But I think that's fine. I think Minecraft developers can forgive us for this. So yeah, and then the next thing we want to do is, we know that this is 5 pixels, we want to extend it. We want to extend this highlight to 5 pixels this way. So there you go, 5 pixels here. And then we'll do the same thing with the shadow here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pixels this way. And we want this to be aligned to the size of the button. Okay, so we have something like this going on here. Now the only problem is we don't have anything in these 2 corners. So for that, what we'll do is we'll just duplicate this one more time. Actually, let's call this shadow. And then the new layer that we just made is gonna be, I actually don't really have a name for it. Maybe we'll just call it corners, because it will just be something all the way at the bottom of all the layers here, and it will have a color that is somewhere in between these 2. So something like this maybe. So you can see that it's a different color, and this is kind of, we're trying to make it look similar to what Minecraft's like pixelated buttons look like. So as you can see, they also have this little corner. I think they also have a pixelated shadow, but I think we don't really need this. I think this is fine. Yeah, okay, so I'll keep it like this. So we have this button. Let's just take all of these shapes and put it all into a group and call it button. Maybe let's call it primary. And then let's put a text to it. And the text is gonna say play now. So like this. It's not gonna be subheading style because I think that's a bit too big. So let's unlink the style from here and manually specify the size of maybe 20 pixels. And then let's just make it full caps and also black, just like the title. And center it. So I'm gonna use these centering tools right here and align it like this. Let's just make it white again. So we have this button like this. Let's see. I think this is fine. Yeah, I think I'll go with this for now. Maybe I want it a little bit bigger, maybe 25 pixels. Maybe 22 pixels like it was originally. Let's see. Yeah, maybe I'll go with that actually. 22 pixels. Alright, so we have the button. Let's put it together. Actually, this is going to be called button shape, because that's just a shape without the text. And now we can group this together and say that this is a button. So we're naming this whole thing as a button. Maybe we can even make a component out of it, because this is going to be the primary way the buttons look like on the screen. So let's just make it as a component right away and start aligning it to this text right here. So we have 40 pixels distance right here between the main title and then the paragraph. So let's see if we can just do the same thing here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's see how that looks. And I think that looks fine. So yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it like this. Alright, so for now we'll keep this text. I might play with this a little bit more. I'm not sure about the spacing here. Maybe this is too far away. Maybe this needs to be 10 pixels closer to itself, like to the paragraph closer to the title. Actually, yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. And then maybe this is a bit closer, or not. No, I think this is fine. Next thing I want to do is make sure that this title and this paragraph is readable. So for that, let's add some kind of fading or maybe a gradient right here on top of this image. So I click here, right away it selects me gradient, and I'll make sure that the gradient starts from this side and then ends maybe somewhere here. I can press shift to make sure that it's exactly in the right place. So shift, there you go. And I will change the colors to black for now. And then this color, it doesn't need to be fully, the opacity doesn't have to be at 100%, so I'll just keep it at maybe 50. Let's see, 50%, how that looks. And I think this looks fine, yeah. Now this part is a lot more readable. This part is pretty much the same as before. So this gradient only goes to like this section right here. So we're not sacrificing the visibility of the background as much. Yeah, so we have this little fade in here. And yeah, the picture is still visible. The text is more readable than before. Yeah, that's good. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make this look a bit more dynamic, this picture, this background picture, and I already have an idea of what to do with that in code when we actually develop the site. So what I want is I want to make a particle effect, and I will actually animate the particles in JavaScript later on. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to go to a site called Pixabay, which is just a website with free pictures, royalty-free pictures. And I already know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a picture of space. I've used this one before, so let's just go with this one. The size is fine, yeah, 1920 by 1080 or by 904 is okay. And I'm gonna drop it in like this, resize it a little bit, and put it right before the background. So now we have something like this, and what I want to do now is change the blend mode. So I click on the picture right here, and then I click on this icon right here, the drop icon. So these are the blend modes in Figma, and I want overlay. And I know this looks a bit too much right now, but what we can do is just change the opacity of the image to, let's say, 50%, and as you can see, it already looks a lot better, just maybe a little bit too dramatic. So maybe let's play with that. Let's play with the settings of the picture. So maybe let's do a lot less saturation, because right now there's a lot of green, some kind of pink going on here, and I don't really want that. I actually want it to be colder than that. So let's actually play with the temperature a little bit as well. And so we get something like this. Yeah, I think I'm satisfied with that. Alright, so this is our main slide. The only thing that is left for this intro section is this area where we will have two social links for YouTube and Discord, and then the address where like of the actual server, because right now we don't have it in the title anymore, so we need to put it somewhere on the page. So I think this is a good place. So we'll take the size, the width of this button, which is 250 pixels, and then the height will be maybe 40 pixels, something like that. I haven't decided yet, but I think this, yeah, I think 40 will do just fine. Maybe a bit bigger. We'll see. And what I want to do here is I want to have the actual address of the server. So play.block.com. It's gonna be white, and the size is gonna be smaller than the subheading, and maybe even smaller than this title. Let's see, than this button text. So 22 pixels. Well, let's try it first. Let's see. Actually, this could work. This is just fine. Yeah, let's keep it like this. And so we're gonna put it inside of this box, and I can already see that it's too small. So let's try to play with the height. Let's do maybe 50 pixels, and then align this inside. Maybe a bit more, maybe 55. Yeah, maybe 55. Let's try that. So we have 250 width and then 55 height. So what I want to do with this part is, it's not going to be gray, it's going to be white, but with opacity of maybe something like 10, maybe 15. Let's try 15. Yeah, maybe 15. It will have a border, or I guess a stroke, that will be white, and the opacity of 15 as well, or 25. What did I do? 25. Yeah, let's do 25. So this is going to be the address. The point here is that we don't want to take away the attention from this button, even though they kind of do the same thing, but this one is, I would say, more appealing. So we're trying to focus on this button right here. So I don't want any other elements to have the same color or the same impact as this button. So that's why we're keeping it as still kind of like a button looking style, but at the same time it's not as impactful as this button. So that's the idea. Another thing I want to do is I want to include the little icon that they had on their official site. So this thing right here, I think right now as is, it doesn't look that appealing, but if you use it as an icon, I think it's pretty good. So let's save that, place it here, and I want it to be something around maybe 22 pixels, because I think that's the font size, or 25, I guess. Yeah, the font size is 25, so let's do, where is it? One sec. Maybe 25. Yeah, something like this. And I want to make sure that the space between them is roughly 10 pixels. So right now it's at 7. So actually, instead of placing it manually, what Figma gives us is, if you select two elements, you can actually drag, like it gives you this little handle right here, and you can actually drag it left and right, and it will change the distance between them. Another cool thing is, since we're describing this, since we're talking about this, is this little area, this little dot. If you drag and drop this element by pressing on the dot, you can actually rearrange elements with the exact same proportions, you just change the position, the starting position of them, like this. But we don't want that, I just wanted to point this out. So yeah, the size is going to be 10 pixels between them. And I will group them together right away, and I will call this play.datblock.com. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to select both of these and align them vertically and horizontally. And I think that's it. Yeah, this is pretty much done. So I will call this, I guess, address. I'm not sure what to call this. Yeah, I think this looks good. When you hover over it, it will have a slightly different effect here, slightly different opacity. And then this one, I haven't decided what's gonna happen with this one. Now that I look at this, I think it's still, this particle effect is still too strong. So maybe let's reduce that even more. Let's see, what can we do with this? Yeah, let's do the opacity of 25. See how that looks. Yeah, so it definitely reduced the impact it had, but at the same time now the image, it doesn't look too distorted with that, and it doesn't look as grainy because of that space thing that we had. So I think we'll keep it like this. Now the last thing we need to do on this slide is to add the social links. So what I'll do is I'll just duplicate this rectangle, because we already have the style that I want. I'll just duplicate this, put it outside of this group. I will move it 10 pixels away from this one. And the width and height is going to be the same. It's going to be a rectangle. Sorry, it's going to be a square instead of rectangle. So I guess we'll just do the same width as the height, like this, and we get this perfect square. So I want it 2 times, one for Discord and another one for YouTube, but I think I'll wait. I'll actually make the icon first, and then I will just duplicate it. So right now we have something like this. I already know which kind of icon I want to use. So instead of using something from the internet, like from a website like Icon Finder or something like that, what I'll do is I will use Font Awesome right away. So this is a web font that a lot of websites use. And so I know that I'm going to be using this. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong one. This one right here. And that's the old one, actually. Okay, there you go. That's the URL. So I know I'm going to be using Font Awesome for this project because I know I'm going to be coding it. So I'll use the icons of that web font right away. And for those of you who don't know what Font Awesome is, it's basically a library of fonts that you can use on any website, and it's super easy to use. So a lot of websites use it, like a lot of websites use it. You've probably seen them, just didn't know about it. Alright, so what I'm looking for is, let's just go to the icons right away so I can show you how many icons it has. So many of them are available only in Pro version, but then also a lot of them are available for free. And I think for what we're about to do, free is just enough. So we want Discord, first of all. We want an icon for Discord, there it is. And so you have a couple of options here. You can just copy the Unicode, you can copy the HTML, assuming that you have the library installed on your site, or you can download an SVG. So in this case, I will do SVG. So right here, it's telling us that SVG requires attribution. So I guess it tells us that we need to link to the site to say that we used Font Awesome. But we're not going to be really posting this anywhere. We're going to just make it on the website itself, and then on the website itself it will be obvious that this is Font Awesome. So we're pretty safe here. So I just drag it into our project. I will right away change this from the frame to a group, because I don't like how the frames are behaving for something like this. I will change the color to white. And then the size is going to be the same size as this icon right here, which is, I think, 25 by 25. Yep, that's correct. So let's do that. So 25. Actually, I think we can't really do this with this icon because it's not proportionate. Like it's not a square. So I guess we'll have to just link the proportions here and change one of these to 25 pixels. So I'm thinking maybe the height would be the best. So let's do 25 pixel height, like so, and align it inside of this box, like this. Let's just make sure it's centered perfectly, and it is. Yep, something like this. Let's take a look. Yeah, I think that looks good. Maybe it stands out a little bit too much. So maybe let's change the opacity of this to 80 or maybe 90. I think that would be a bit better. Yeah, something like that, so that when you hover over it, it will change to 100%, so you will see a little change happening. So you can see, you can tell that you are hovering over something clickable. And then we just need to do this one more time, but with YouTube. So what I'll do is, I'll actually take this rectangle and then this Discord icon. I will group them together. I will call this Discord. And what I'll do is I'll press Alt and then left click and then start dragging, which will basically duplicate this element. And Figma even tells us how much distance we should put this away from the previous one, which is 10 pixels. So I just go with that. So I release, and there you go. We have a duplicate of Discord. Let's just call this YouTube right away, so we know what that is. And let's look for that icon on Font Awesome. So YouTube, and we'll use this one right here. So same thing, download SVG, we'll place it here. Same thing as before, we change it to group. We'll link width and height so that when we resize, it doesn't do this. Well, I guess it still does that for whatever reason. I guess it's only if you start changing the width and height manually like this, then it's gonna keep the proportions, but you still have option to scale it like that. But yeah, we want to make sure that the height is the same, so 25 pixels. And it's gonna be white color, but with the opacity of, I believe, 80% or 90%. Let's see, 90%. So yeah, let's do that. 90%. And now we just want to replace this Discord icon with our YouTube icon. So just put it here, delete the Discord icon, and that's it. There you go. Actually, I think this looks a bit too much. So maybe let's change this from a height of 25 pixels to width of 25 pixels like this. And then resize it. And then the same thing with Discord. This is going to be 25. Oh, sorry. This is going to be 25. Maybe like this. Let's try that. Now the Discord is looking a bit too much. Yeah, so because they're different proportions, it's kind of hard to tell what it should be. So I think I'll keep it like this. So this one will be 25 pixel height, and then this one is 25 pixels width. Yeah, we'll keep it like this for now. I think when I actually start coding this, it's probably gonna change just a little bit, but for now I'll keep it like this. And there you go. So looking at it now, I feel like this part right here is blending in too much. So maybe let's add a little difference between them. So maybe this opacity is going to be when you actually hover over something, but the actual opacity of the layers is going to be something like maybe 10 pixels or maybe even 5. Let's try 5. Yeah, something like that. So basically you'll have 5 pixels opacity at the start. When you hover over it, it's going to change to 15, like this. Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap this up, I actually realized that we are missing one more thing on this design. So since we are going to have sticky scrolling, so when you scroll, it scrolls the entire section, we probably want to have some kind of progress bar so that the person knows which slide they're on. So I'm thinking to add it somewhere over here. So let's basically take this rectangle right here, or I guess this square, and use that as our base. So it's going to be similar, just smaller, and then the active state will be probably just white. So let's do that. So I'm going to copy it over, move it somewhere over here. I think I'm not going to follow the guides for this one, because I've worked with, we're going to be using fullpage.js for our code, for our actual website. And I know that there's some pain with keeping this within the container. So I'm going to just avoid that pain right away and just place it 1, 2, 3, 30 pixels away from the edge, maybe 50 pixels on desktop, and then on mobile we can have something else. But that's the idea. And yeah, let's do that. The size is going to be a lot smaller, so it's probably going to be something like maybe 50 pixels by 50. Actually, no, that's already what it is. No, 20 by 20. Let's do that. 20 by 20. Yeah, I think this is good. So that's going to be our first bullet, and then I guess the first one should be active, but let's just duplicate this one more time. And then, yeah, we'll make this 100% opacity, so 100% white. And then this one will probably stay the same. Maybe I want the border a bit bigger, the opacity of the border bigger, because I can't really see it from far away. And I guess the users won't see it either, so let's do it at 50%. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I'll take it. So yeah, let's group this together. We'll call this progress. And let's duplicate it, I guess 2 more times? Yeah, we have 4 slides in total. So yeah, let's just duplicate this. Oops. I just call this bullet. This is gonna be bullet active, so we know what it is. And let's just duplicate it same way. So I'm pressing Alt and then Shift and then dragging. So Shift just so it stays within the grid, I guess. So it's aligned to the rest of them. And let's see. So right now the distance between them is 11 pixels. I'm gonna select all of them like this. And just like before, I'm gonna change the spacing between all of them at once, at the same time, right here. So I can either just drag it like this or just manually enter the number. But since I know that I want 10 pixels, this is fine. All right, and we want one more like this. And in this case, I'm just gonna let Figma lead us and just let the size be the same. I mean, sorry, the distance to be the same. All right, so at this point, let's maybe align it to the rest of the site. Actually, I think we can just use this tool right here. So align vertical centers. So let's press that. Let's see how that looks. So I'm noticing that the actual content is not aligned. So let's move that as well. So same thing, aligned vertically. Well, aligned vertical centers. And now it should be good. Yeah, this is good. And this is basically it. Yeah. So we are done with our design, or I guess the design of the first slide. In the next video, we'll do the rest of them. So I guess the second one will be the features. I'll see you in the next video.